Welcome to another Purpose Served podcast episode. I'm your host, Darryl Wingfield. Today, we're going to be talking about how to follow your muse and what a muse actually is. If you're new to this channel, if you're new to this content, please like, share, and subscribe. Please like, share, and subscribe. But what a muse is a person or personified force that's pretty much like a source of inspiration for creative artists. So I wanted to talk about, for me, what that muse for me was, and what age that I found that muse. And for me, it was Kobe Bryant, and it was at the age of 14, watching him play basketball and watching him engage in his purpose night in and night out. And at the time, I didn't really understand why it was resonating me in such a way, but I was such in awe in what he was doing, and that's what made me pick up a basketball and really go all in. But at 14, this is in 2009, so this is the year after he lost to the Boston Celtics in the finals in 6 games. So Boston had 4 games, he had 2, and he lost in 6. But that next year, that following year, that's when I really started watching basketball and watching the NBA and following it heavy. Like, watching him play, you know what I mean, made me pick up a basketball, after his games, and then go down the street from my house and practice some of the moves that I would see him do. And I would be outside all day, just pretty much practicing the stuff that I would see him do, his intensity, his ferocity, you know what I mean? I would try to mimic, the facial expressions that he made and everything, because it awed me. I was in such wow. But through me discovering him as my muse and my reason to play basketball, which further on led to my reason to create, this is going to be about me telling people and encouraging people to find what their muse is and do the same thing. Because ultimately, me even, listening to it, it led me down the avenue where it was such a blessing in disguise, but at first it didn't seem that way. It just seemed like I wasn't really reaping the benefits of anything that I was doing. And when I first started off doing it, it was, and I believe that I talked about this in the previous podcast episodes, but me playing basketball was not encouraged by the people that was around me, but it did feel like the right thing for me to do. And for a lot of people, if your life is surrounded or influenced by what people think of what you should be doing and you're listening to them, I know for a fact that it's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling when you feel like your life is off and you just can't explain why it's off. And or you know why it's off, but you don't even know how to get back and revert it and get back on track to truly be doing what you want to do. Because a lot of people, the older that you get, the more you just get more in this rat race, you know what I mean, where you're only looking forward to the weekends, for like the next 20 years of your life, just to get past those 20 years and realize that, wow, should I have been doing something different? Like, it was never, like I said earlier, encouraged for me to play basketball. It was something that I had to make for myself. But the muse was such a strong pull that I couldn't do anything but listen to it, even though it was really scary and I didn't know how it would turn out. I had to just listen to the source of inspiration that kept like calling and pulling towards me. I relate this similar to if you're at a shoreline, right? And this muse is in the water of the ocean, and it's telling you to come out into the water. And every time you reach out to go get it, it pulls itself back like a little bit, and you keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into the water. And then next thing you know, you look back and you realize that shoreline where you was comfortable at and where you spent majority of your life at you're nowhere near that, and now you're in unknown territory that's completely new to you, and it's scary. A lot of people don't like being in this situation, but I believe that once you get put in these situations where you just keep listening to this source of inspiration, it puts you in a space where the unknown is the best place to create from. And at the age of 14, it was something that I needed, because up until that point, it was something about, I was like a rebellious kid. I always got in like mad trouble, and I was always doing something, but I didn't like to listen to authority. I didn't really like to follow rules or follow directions. I just like doing my own thing. And of course, as a kid, you don't really have a say on what you should and shouldn't be doing. It's just whatever, the program is in place, you just got to do it. But as I got older, the rebellion escalated more and more and more and more and more, even when I was playing basketball. But through basketball, that's what was the pullback that didn't let me go too far from the deep end. And if you do have this calling, for those people that's listening, honor that calling. The most beautiful thing about a Muse is, for the most part, all you have to do is show up. As long as you show up and you give in to the experience, great things can happen. And you have to be consistent in this behavior. Like for me, at the age of 14, I was just going to the courts and just showing up. And whatever the Muse was telling me to do, I felt the vibes out and I just did it. At 14, of course, I told you I didn't really understand what I was doing, but I was just doing it. And doing that years on years on years on years on end, I started noticing the progress that I was making. But it wasn't at the rate that I was making it at, because of the results that I was getting, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, because that has a lot to do with your mindset. But fast forward literally to the beginning of this year, on January 26th of this year, when Kobe passed away, that altered my life. And I know it hit home with so many different people, but for me, it like threw me off, because as crazy as it sounds, this was somebody that I felt as though I was destined to meet him. Like, I was going to meet him eventually, somehow, some way. I didn't really understand if it was going to happen, but I felt it. You know what I mean? But when he passed away, that did something to me. You know what I mean? And ultimately, it made my drive go that much more. It taught me that, like I say on this podcast as well, was just that you never know when your time is going to come. And that was somebody who every single day he went about his days so tactfully and was so engaged in his days, because it's just, he committed to a lifestyle of greatness. And that's a tough thing to do. That's a tough decision to make, because it's not easy. Nobody wants to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and chase their greatness, especially when they're not at that immediate moment or not getting anything out of it. But that kind of behavior it stuck with me at an early age. Like, I would want to say, like, for me, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, at the age of 16, I was like, Kobe was willing to do it, then I can do it too. And that's a lot of stuff. Like, a lot of those behaviors drove me. And the more I kept implementing those behaviors, as time went on, it started to really hone in into my character. And then after that, it started pretty much going into different avenues of my life. But I wanted to give people that same feeling that, like, Kobe gave me. And ultimately, that's what Purpose Served is. I want to inspire people to take actions on their dreams and aspirations, because through Kobe Bryant's life, that's what he made me do, and that was one of my major muses. And from that discovery, I had other muses along the way, such as like Napoleon Hill, so many different people, you know what I mean, that I look to for inspiration, knowledge, and information to get me to the next step. And another thing that I want to talk to you guys about, which I've been talking to people about, as of late a lot, is like I said earlier with the Muse, you have to surrender to the Muse, to the experience, and let it take its course. Now, when you keep doing things just for the outcome, you can prolong the outcome, and also you can stunt your growth because you're so in the future that you're not really focused on the now. And the trick for it is you're preparing yourself to be that person that at the end of the road that you're trying to be. So every day you're incorporating these behaviors more and more and more and more and more, but you're not thinking about the outcome. You're only engaged in the activity that you're doing to become that person that you're trying to become. So this is something that I'm going to also talk about in a future podcast when it's just like, me talking to you guys. But once you set that destination, that should be the first thing. You got to always, have your plan from start to finish, and work your way backwards. So always, like, say you should create that end goal first and then work your way backwards to the start. So that way you know where you're going while you're trying to go in that direction. You guys get what I'm saying? But when the last part should be consistency after you set the destination and do everything you got to do in between that. But the very last thing is consistency and not the destination, because the consistency is going to create the behavior that you need in order for you to reach that destination. Because once you reach that destination, it's not, people shouldn't look at it as like, you know what I mean, getting that $1 million check or that house or that job or that position that you always wanted. Because if you guys think about it, it's just a moment. Moments come and go, but you're hanging on to the learned behavior. You're hanging on to the mindset that you have to cultivate to be that person that's going to carry you once you get to that destination. And with that being said, you could take it to another level with the tools and the knowledge that you acquired to achieve another destination. But like I said, you can still keep that same formula with, for example, having that consistency that keeps modifying and reiterating that behavior, so you always maintaining your results. With when it came down to like me, discovering my Muse and going down that path of like honoring that Muse, it didn't become a easy thing until I had to ditch a lot of the limited beliefs that I had with when it came to, like, for example, me playing basketball, because a lot of the results that I was getting was still holding me back from the person I was truly trying to become, because of what everybody expectations of what they thought I was going to do, what everybody like felt as though I should be doing. It was stunting my growth, and oftentimes it made me feel like, am I doing the right thing? I remember this was 2 years ago. I was in a weird place, you know what I mean? Not really knowing what I was going to do with my life or anything. And I remember I called my mom and I asked her like, do you think I'm doing the right thing? And she told me that no matter what you decide to do, I'm going to support you and love you no matter what. And with that answer, it made me feel like I was doing the right thing, but also start honing in on what I'm doing and changing my beliefs from that. And I hope that me even shedding light on Muses to begin with, you guys start to discover that you guys all have Muses out there, something that you've seen or something that I don't know, like you guys like that left you in awe and left you like, I would love to try that, or I would love to do that. If you was to go in that direction, I think that would be the best thing for you. Like with Purpose Served, my goal is for all you guys that are passionate about, I guess, like a hobby that you have, if you turn that into a pursuit of mastery and pretty much like go down that road completely, it's gonna have you feeling like a blissful enjoyment towards life. And that's gonna, like, a lot of people are so depressed with the life that they're living because they feeling like they're not getting nothing out of it. And also the uncertainty that comes with living in this world, it makes you want to quit before you even start. But if you guys could start to understand that if you just put yourself in the right state of mind and around the right people in the right environment, you'll be surprised what you'll be able to do with that encouragement. Because a lot of times, like, I notice, like, for me, when, like, for example, I wanted to go overseas and play basketball. I didn't know anybody around me that went overseas and played basketball, but it was something that I wanted to do, like, desperately. But due to the fact that I wasn't in that environment, and plus the environment that I was around was not encouraging basketball behavior at all, it oftentimes made me feel like, what's the point of even trying to do it? And I can't do it. But like I said, a Muse is such a powerful thing because it's a source that's waiting for you. It's already there, and it's waiting for you. And it's waiting for your awareness. It's waiting for your attention. But you have to do. You have to do. You have to do. You have to do. You have to take action. You know, experience to me is the best teacher. You, like, in regards to basketball, you could read about basketball and you could watch basketball highlights all day. But until you get on a basketball court, that's the best way to know where your weaknesses and your strengths lie, because you're not going to know from just reading books and watching videos, you know. And for example, shout out to my little brother Devin. He's just now starting to play basketball in high school, but I'm starting to tell him the things that I wish I knew when I was his age, and that my goal for him is for him to be better than me. You know, I want to instill all the tools that I have and give it to him and just pass that on. I want people through their deeds and actions to inspire people to do what they truly want to do. And that's why I'm even doing this podcast. Like, this podcast is something special, you guys. Like, this is another thing from me listening to a Muse that I don't know. I've been trying to think about, like, how all of this stuff has been cooking up, but it's just been hard to, like, piece it together. Like, I do know, but at the same time, it just feels like this was already here waiting for me this whole entire time, and all I had to do was just step into it. And it's kind of weird. It's hard to explain, but for those of you out there, if you do lean into it, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. And also, I just made a blog post about following your Muse, and you guys should check it out. And on the forum, I would love for you guys to put out what your Muse is and what inspires you to create and who inspire you to create. Because I have the utmost faith that through you guys, this whole entire thing is gonna get taken to a whole nother level where I can't even predict. But I have a really, really, like, overwhelming good sense that this is the start of something, like, crazy, honestly. But the information that I'm learning, I want to instill to y'all, you know, and also I want to learn from you guys as well. And that's pretty much it. I love you guys, and this is a short little podcast episode for this week. You guys got to serve your purpose and follow your Muse. Figure out what your Muse is. Figure out what inspires you to create, and then go out and do it. Go out and show up, and you'll be surprised at the results that come from you following your Muse. Yet again, like, share, and subscribe to the content. Also, put what your Muse is on the website. I'm going to have the blog post in the description to this podcast episode. Love you guys. Peace out. Serve your purpose.